The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council had never known such a suffocating stillness. 47 species, the pinnacle of sentient achievement across the known cosmos, sat in motionless disbelief as the holographic projection filled the chamber. On the shimmering display, the unmistakable silhouettes of Vex'kari dreadnoughts glided toward our outermost colonies. Their numbers blotted out the stars. "Well," drawled Grand Ambassador Zeloth, his sarcasm slicing through the hush like a plasma blade. The universal translators didn't have to work hard to convey his disdain. 10 millennia of peace, prosperity, and enlightenment, and we're about to be devoured by interstellar locusts. I, Trazax of the Quillian Federation, ranked a modest third among my world's diplomatic corps, shifted uneasily in my seat. The Vex'kari were no jest. They consumed without malice, without pause, everything in their path. Worlds, moons, asteroid belts, orbital cities, all reduced to elemental matter, fed into their colossal forge ships, which birthed more of their kind. They didn't wage war in the traditional sense, they expanded. We were merely an inconvenient obstruction. Ambassador Zura of the Ominor Syndicate, Prime Counselor Norix, spoke at last, her 4 upper limbs twitching with nervous energy. "Update the Council on our defenses." Zura rose, her bioluminescent skin pulsing in tense, rhythmic waves. "Our united fleets have engaged the Vex'kari across 7 warfronts," she reported. 83% of our capital vessels have been lost. Survivors regroup at Centauri Hub. Strategic models predict no more than a 12% probability of halting their main advance. Only 12. Ambassador Plex barked out a laugh, brittle, joyless. "I remember when our biggest worry was tariff disputes with the Beltoran trade barons. Those were simpler times. This is not the hour for sentiment," snapped Ambassador Krex, his scaled visage locked into what his people considered solemnity. "We require solutions, not fond memories." The chamber dissolved into bickering. The Beltorans pushed for negotiation, ignoring 17 failed attempts. The Jurgen Collective proposed retreat into pocket dimensions, as though the Vex'kari's rift detection arrays were a myth. The Zolarans urged the release of a tailored plague, forgetting the Vex'kari weren't bound by biology as we understood it. Then, a voice, low and deliberate, cut through the clamor. "There remains one course we have not considered," said Ambassador Eichna of the Volturian Enclave. All conversation stilled. The Volturian elder rarely addressed the assembly, but when she did, the galaxy listened. "And what course is that?" Prime Counselor Norix demanded. Eichna's clouded eyes fixed unerringly on the central dais. "We could request the aid of the humans." The uproar was instantaneous. Half the chamber erupted in protests, the other half in shocked demands for clarification. Humans, the exiled species, quarantined for 2 centuries, too volatile, too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. "Have you lost your senses?" Krex thundered, his ceremonial neck frill flaring wide. "The humans? We might as well destroy our own worlds and spare the Vex'kari the effort." "They are resourceful," Eichna replied with measured calm. "They are savages," Krex countered. "They discovered atomic energy and weaponized it in less than 3 cycles. Their entire history is a tapestry woven in their own blood." Ambassador Zeloth leaned forward. "And that is precisely why they may be our only hope. Imagine what such a species might do when confronted with an enemy that threatens not a border or a regime, but their entire existence." The chamber quieted again. I found myself instinctively pulling up the classified archive. Humanity's timeline was nothing like the neat evolutionary climb of most civilizations. Others took millennia to step from agriculture to writing, to machinery, to spaceflight, to faster-than-light drives. Humans? They went from their first powered flight to setting foot on their moon in a mere 66 years. From theorizing nuclear fission to operating reactors in 5. From understanding genetic code to altering it within a single century. Their adaptability bordered on the frightening. When we found them, Eichner continued into the uneasy silence. They had already endured 2 global wars and forged weapons capable of rendering their own planet lifeless. Yet, they also crafted art that moved alien observers to tears. Composed music that stirred emotion in species with no concept of sound as art. Wrote stories that somehow resonated across entirely separate biologies. They are contradictions incarnate. They are dangerous, Krex growled. We placed warning buoys around their system for a reason. Yes, Norik said slowly, but perhaps danger is precisely what we require now. And just like that, I was chosen for the delegation. Not for any great skill, but because I had recently archived what little we knew of human culture and physiology, and because no senior diplomat wanted the assignment. If things went awry, better to lose an expendable third rank. Our vessel emerged from FTL on the outer edge of the Sol system. The ancient warning beacons still pulsed their eternal message in 2,000 languages. Danger. Quarantined species. Do not approach. Ironic, murmured Captain Lorax as we slipped past them. We set those to keep the galaxy safe from humanity. Now we pray they'll keep the galaxy safe from something worse. We steered toward the 4th planet, Mars. The humans had established colonies there, our long-range scans confirmed. The Council had reasoned it was better to meet them away from their homeworld. If this mission failed, at least Earth itself might remain untouched. Incoming transmission, our communications officer announced, clearly perplexed. It's perfectly encoded in galactic standard. I blinked. That's impossible. We've never exchanged a single word with them. Play it, ordered Ambassador Kazan, leader of our desperate envoy. The display flickered, revealing a human face. Female, I guessed, though their sexual distinctions were far subtler than in many species. Greetings, visitors, she said evenly. I'm Director Maya Quinn, Mars Colonial Defense Force. We've been expecting you. Ambassador Kazan's mandibles clicked once in surprise. Expecting us? Oh yes, she answered, lips curving upward in what my files suggested was a smile. We detected your vessel the moment you dropped into the system. Truth is, we've known about the galactic community for nearly a century. My stomach, or rather, all 4 of my hearts, sank. This was supposed to be impossible. The quarantine had been flawless. No contact, no stray broadcasts, no hint to alert them of life beyond their star. How? Kazan pressed. We listen, she said simply. We observe. We learn. Your observation satellites? We breached them decades ago. Your warning beacons? We cracked the code. Those covert survey ships loitering at the system's edge? We've been monitoring their chatter for years. I felt heat ripple through my limbs, a visceral fear. This was bad. Don't look so alarmed, Quinn said suddenly, and I realized she was addressing me. If we wanted to break your quarantine, we would have. We've respected your decision, even if we disagreed. But let's not pretend this is truly first contact. She leaned slightly forward. Now, why don't you explain what's driven the mighty Galactic Council to finally knock on our door? The landing platform at Mars Colonial Defense Headquarters swarmed with more humans than I anticipated. Their gazes followed us openly as we disembarked, curiosity unmasked. We were escorted through bright, pristine corridors until we reached a conference chamber. Director Quinn stood waiting, flanked by 3 others. She introduced them in turn. General Tycho Ibuki, Dr. Layla Jackson, and Ambassador Connor O'Malley. Ambassador, I blurted before restraint could catch me. Yes, O'Malley replied, with a short, strange sound I would later learn was called a chuckle. We've maintained an extraterrestrial diplomatic corps for nearly half a century. Optimistic, maybe, but we believe in being ready. Once we were seated, Ambassador Kazan laid out the grim picture. The Vex'kari threat, our shattered fleets, the near certainty of galactic collapse. I studied the humans as he spoke. No fear. No despair. Their eyes held something closer to anticipation. When he finished, Quinn nodded slowly. So, you've come seeking our assistance against a foe your combined armadas, representing 47 advanced civilizations, cannot stop? A foe that's annihilated hundreds of your worlds without a single word or overture. That is correct, Kazan said, his voice modulator leaving no doubt of our desperation. And you quarantined us, General Ibuki said evenly, because you judged us too volatile, too unpredictable. The measure was precautionary, Kazan said carefully. Dr. Jackson's laugh was sharp and unrestrained. Precautionary. That's a polite way of saying, we were scared of you, isn't it? Our silence said enough. Well, O'Malley said, leaning back with casual ease, looks like the galaxy finally has a use for our particular skill set. You'll help us. The words slipped from me before I could mask the astonishment. Of course, Quinn said, as though the question itself were absurd. We're human. Taking on impossible odds is practically a pastime. As we filed out, I found myself alongside Dr. Jackson. Why? I asked. Why help us after we cut your people off from the stars? Her expression was hard to read. Funny thing about humans, she said. We adore a redemption arc, especially when we get to play the heroes. But the risk is enormous, she finished for me. Potentially catastrophic. Which is exactly why it's interesting. Interesting? I echoed, baffled. Absolutely. There's an old saying back home, may you live in interesting times. Supposed to be a curse. But the truth? We thrive when things get complicated. Our species has been forged by disaster after disaster. Ice ages. Supervolcano eruptions. Asteroid strikes. Pandemics. Climate shift. We've survived them all. Compared to our own history, your Vex'kari problem? That's just Tuesday. I didn't know what Tuesday meant, but her confidence was both comforting and deeply unsettling. Within mere hours, preparations were underway. Human ships, far more diverse than I expected, were being readied. Not just warships but civilian craft, mining rigs, research cruisers, even what looked like modified cargo haulers. When I questioned this, General Ibuki outlined their strategy. The Vex'kari consume everything, right? Reduce it to raw matter and make more of themselves. I nodded. Well, so can we. Our mining fleets can strip an asteroid faster than they can. Our fabrication units can repurpose materials mid-combat. And every human captain has one thing they never will. What's that? I asked, not sure if I wanted the answer. Imagination, General Ibuki replied, his smile predatory. And an irresistible urge to measure ourselves against a worthy foe. You've just set loose something you can't entirely comprehend, Trazax. I hope you're ready for what comes next. As I watched the flurry of activity across human shipyards and orbital docks, a troubling thought gnawed at me. Perhaps we had made a monumental error. Yet with the Vex'kari sweeping ever closer, the alternative was certain annihilation. Prime Counselor Norix's words came back to me. Perhaps what we need right now is dangerous. The humans fit that description perfectly. The only question was, dangerous to whom? The fleet launched from the Sol system with a speed I had never seen before. In less than a single Earth day, they had assembled more than 3,000 vessels, from warships to auxiliary craft, in a perfectly coordinated mass departure. From my place aboard the Phoenix Dawn, their flagship, I observed the tactical displays in awe. Admiral Elena Reyes, calm and composed, commanded the armada. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, tracked every shift in the data streams. You look impressed, she remarked without looking away from the display. My people would require months to organize a deployment of this scale, I admitted. The Council took 16 days merely to approve sending our diplomatic party to you. No offense to your Council, Reyes said, but 16 days of talking while colonies are being eaten is not efficient. And yet your own people united instantly, I noted. We were told humans are divided, prone to disputes. She actually laughed at that. Oh, we are. In fact, there are at least 7 major disagreements about our approach to this mission right now. The difference? We keep arguing while already en route to the fight. That was my first real glimpse into their concept of multitasking, a strange human talent for debating, planning, and executing all at once, often with unrelated chatter woven through. Where most species pause to deliberate, humans seem to operate in motion. And your plan against the Vex'kari? I asked cautiously. Your fleet is formidable, but the Council's forces have already lost thousands of advanced warships. Her mouth curved in a subtle smile. The Council fought conventionally. We won't. What do you mean? You'll see at Centauri Hub, she said simply. Your defenders are still holding there, correct? Barely. They have perhaps 3 days before the Vex'kari main fleet arrives. Then we'll be there in 2. Her certainty was unshakable, and she was true to her word. 48 hours later, the human armada dropped from FTL into Centauri Hub space, using drive configurations our own physicists insisted were only theoretical. The remnants of the Galactic Defense Forces greeted them with visible relief mixed with unease. High Admiral Zex of the Jurgen Collective, commanding officer of the Combined Galactic Forces, was still visibly reeling when Reyes and her senior staff transported aboard his flagship. Your ships maneuver strangely, Zex said, his 7 eyes blinking in sequence. Our sensors struggled to track your approach vectors. Dr. Prisha Patel, their chief science officer, offered a casual shrug. Just a small adjustment to standard FTL design. We induce a quantum superposition in the core while generating a localized temporal distortion. The room filled with baffled looks. Those concepts weren't unknown to galactic science, but the offhand way she spoke about bending the foundations of reality was unsettling. Let's skip the technical lecture, Admiral Reyes cut in. We need to finalize battle plans. The Vex'kari will be here within the day. Zex gestured to a holomap, showing the encroaching swarm. Our surviving forces are arrayed in a standard defensive ring around the hub. With your reinforcement, we may delay them long enough to complete evacuation. Evacuation? Reyes' brow furrowed. We didn't come here to run. Their fleet outnumbers ours nearly 3-1, Zex explained patiently. Even with your ships, the probability of victory is negligible. General Amara Jackson, in charge of human ground forces, stepped forward. With respect, Admiral, humans have a long track record of winning battles the numbers said we couldn't. How? Zex demanded. By rewriting the equation, Dr. Patel answered, teeth flashing in a grin that was anything but comforting. What followed could only be described as the most unorthodox war council in history. The humans didn't just critique galactic battle doctrine, they tossed it aside entirely. Strategies ranged from bold to downright suicidal, and they debated them with an almost playful energy. They referenced ancient events, pulling a Thermopylae or going full Inchon, that meant nothing to alien ears, but seemed to rally the human officers. They joked mid-strategy, swapped sarcasm like ammunition, and treated the prospect of a hopeless fight as a challenge to be savored. This is madness, Zex muttered under his breath. Possibly, Reyes agreed without missing a beat. But as one of our philosophers put it, insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different outcome. Your conventional tactics have failed 43 times against the Vex'kari. Maybe it's time to embrace a little madness. The Vex'kari arrived right on schedule. Their vast world ships, each a drifting moon of steel and hunger, tore free from FTL, encircled by flocks of harvester craft. They advanced without hesitation, without emotion, without any concept of fear. I stood at the Phoenix Dawn's observation deck, watching the silent tide roll in. Magnificent, aren't they? Came a voice beside me. I turned to see Commander Felix Navarro, the Phoenix Dawn's tactical officer, studying the enemy with an expression that could almost be called admiration. You think they're beautiful? I asked, unable to hide my disbelief. In the same way a perfect predator is beautiful, he replied evenly. They've either evolved or engineered themselves into the ultimate engines of consumption. No excess, no hesitation, no mercy. And that's something you respect? Navarro's smile was razor-thin. It makes them predictable, and predictable enemies can be beaten. As the Vex'kari juggernauts bore down on Centauri Hub, the human fleet did something I'd never seen in any space battle. Instead of forming a defensive wall, they scattered, breaking into apparently erratic swarms. Tiny squadrons darted toward the massive enemy vessels, only to peel away at the last instant. Others wove flight paths that seemed deliberately nonsensical. "What are they doing?" demanded High Admiral Zex over the comm grid, his tone sharp. "Getting their attention," Admiral Reyes answered coolly, "and charting how they respond." For nearly an hour, the human armada performed this strange, looping ballet, minimal losses on both sides, but not a single decisive blow struck. Meanwhile, the rest of the galactic defense forces held static formations, confusion and impatience bleeding into their communications. Then Reyes gave a simple command: "Initiate Operation Trojan Horse." The scattered ships suddenly converged into tight, coordinated formations, but rather than striking directly at the Vex'kari hulls, they unleashed massive missile salvos at apparently empty coordinates in space. "What in the void are they hitting?" I asked, bewildered. "Oh, there's something there," Navarro said, satisfaction in his voice. "The Vex'kari fleet uses quantum-entangled relays for instantaneous coordination. Those empty points are the signal hubs, invisible to ordinary sensors, but Dr. Patel's team identified them from the energy patterns we logged during our feints. The results were immediate. The once perfectly synchronized Vex'kari formations wavered, breaking into disorganized clump. Without the central neural net linking them, each ship acted independently, and far less efficiently. "Phase 2, Reyes ordered. From the battle's edge, a wave of human mining rigs and cargo haulers surged forward. Instead of heavy weapons, they deployed colossal electromagnetic nets strung between them, ensnaring dozens of the smaller Vex'kari craft in shimmering field. "Those aren't combat ships," I said, baffled. "No," Navarro agreed. "They're salvage units. The Vex'kari devour everything, right? Well, now it's our turn to feed." The nets destabilized the captives' molecular structure, breaking them down into raw matter. And behind the salvage teams came automated fabrication ships, mobile factories that absorbed the material and began churning out missiles by the thousands. "You're weaponizing their biomass," I realized, stunned. Navarro's grin widened. "Poetic, isn't it? They came to consume us. We're recycling them instead." The tide began to turn. Human forces pressed their advantage, striking hard at the fractured enemy lines. The newly built munitions, crafted from the Vex'kari's own essence, slipped through their automated defenses as though recognized as friendly signatures. But 3 of the massive world ships remained untouched. Their layered shields adapted to every strike, their colossal hulls shrugging off blows that would have shattered lesser vessels. And they kept moving, an unstoppable wall of metal and hunger, straight toward Centauri Hub. "They're ignoring the damage and still advancing," I said, unease tightening in my chest. "We've noticed," Reyes replied, stepping onto the observation deck beside us. "Time for Phase 3. Navarro, signal the sleight of hand squadron." A handful of sleek vessels detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward the gargantuan behemoth. Their profiles were different. No heavy guns, no armor plating, but overpowered engines. "They don't look like warships," I observed. "They aren't," Reyes said. "Civilian research craft. Specifically, our best xenobiology labs in space." "You're sending scientists into the middle of a firefight?" I asked, horrified. "Who better to study a living opponent than those who study life itself?" She inclined her head toward the viewport. "Just watch." The science ships deployed swarms of small, insect-like devices that clamped onto the hull plating of the world ship. For long, tense moments, nothing happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, the behemoths began to slow. "What's going on?" "They're not probes," Reyes explained. "They're genetic resequencers." Dr. Patel's team decoded the Vex'kari's biological data and confirmed they operate on a distributed consciousness, a hive mind. Those devices are injecting a rewritten fragment of their own genetic code back into their systems. "You're reprogramming them?" "Closer to scrambling them," she said. "Imagine suddenly being flooded with thoughts that aren't yours. Urges that contradict everything you are. It's the hive mind equivalent of triggering an autoimmune collapse." I stared in disbelief as the enormous predators hesitated, then, shockingly, turned their fury on one another. The largest of the Vex'kari titans turned on its own kind, colossal harvester limbs ripping into the very ships it had been leading only moments earlier. "That's horrifying," I breathed. "Yes," Admiral Reyes said, her voice low and steady. "But so is extinction." The Battle of Centauri Hub raged for another 6 relentless hours, yet from that first moment of chaos in the enemy's ranks, the outcome was no longer in question. By the time the final Vex'kari ship was either destroyed or secured for study, our combined forces had lost fewer than 15% of their vessels, a result so improbable it bordered on miraculous. Later, wandering a quiet corridor aboard the Phoenix Dawn, I tried to make sense of what I'd witnessed. The humans hadn't just fought. They had adapted, improvising with breathtaking speed, turning the impossible into victory by reshaping the rules of the conflict itself. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" a voice said behind me. I turned to find Director Maya Quinn, who had joined the fleet from Mars only days before the battle. "Your people fight like nothing I've ever seen," I admitted. "We don't fight to win battles," she said. "We fight to outlive extinction events. That instinct is in our very bones, the legacy of countless generations who refused to die when every statistic said they would." "The Council feared that side of humanity," I said quietly. "Your unpredictability. Your capacity for violence. Maybe they were right to lock you away." She tilted her head, considering. "Maybe. Or maybe what they should have feared more was a galaxy without us in it." 3 weeks later, I stood again in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council. This time, I was not alone. At my side stood Ambassador Connor O'Malley, representing Earth for the very first time in official capacity. Prime Counselor Norix's voice carried through the hall. "The quarantine of the Sol system is hereby lifted. Humanity has earned its place among the galactic community." The applause that followed was not the polite, hollow acknowledgement of politics, but something real, a thunderous, genuine welcome. As we left the chamber together, I noticed O'Malley's expression was thoughtful, not celebratory. "You don't seem pleased," I said. "Acceptance cuts both ways," he replied. "Now comes the real test." "Which is?" "Proving we deserve it," he said. "Stopping the Vex'kari was straightforward. They were trying to wipe us out, so we stopped them. But building something lasting? Contributing to galactic civilization in ways that have nothing to do with our knack for creative destruction? That's harder." "You're afraid you'll disappoint us?" "For ourselves," he corrected. "Human history is complicated. For every triumph we're proud of, there's a shadow we wrestle with. That struggle between our better and worse natures, it's what makes us human." Our shuttle lifted from the Council station, bound for Earth, where I would establish the first official galactic embassy. As the stars drifted past, I realized the humans had done more than win a war. They had reminded the galaxy of a truth we had nearly forgotten: survival sometimes demands embracing the very qualities we fear. Adaptability, unpredictability, a refusal to yield when logic declares the fight already lost. The Vex'kari had met dozens of civilizations that followed predictable, calculated strategies. Then they encountered humanity, a species that looked at certain defeat and replied, "We disagree with your math." Perhaps that was the real lesson of this war. Not that humans were dangerous, though they undoubtedly were, but that they simply refused to accept limitations, even those written into the laws of physics. As Earth's blue and green sphere swelled in the viewport, O'Malley gestured toward the dark, dormant warning beacons we were passing. You know the irony? He asked. Those weren't just meant to keep us in. They kept the galaxy out. I frowned. How is that dangerous? Because problems rarely get better when ignored, he said. And you'll never find an ally if you never reach out for one. I thought about the Council's centuries of enforced distance, and how that choice had nearly doomed every living world. So what happens next? I asked. O'Malley's answer came with a smile, one I could read without need of translation between our species. Now, he said, we see what the most dangerous species in the galaxy can do when it chooses friendship over war. I turned back to the growing sphere of Earth, feeling both anticipation and unease. The quarantine was gone. Humanity had stepped fully onto the galactic stage. And nothing would ever be the same again.